a wedding and event planner, and my offices are in New York and Palm Beach, but we work all over the world, usually in pre-pandemic days. We've done weddings in Italy and Croatia and Montenegro, and parties also in Italy and in France, and of course all over the US and the Caribbean. So, and my business, Marcy Blum Associates, has been in business for this is our 36th year. And what else can I tell you? I'm sure you'll have lots of questions. I hope so. And you can ask me, and I'll look at the Q&A, and either I'll get to them during the process of me lecturing to you or afterwards. So I hope you have questions, because that's what makes it fun and interesting for everyone. Basically, what I'm going to talk to you about today is some of the tricks in creating a party or event or wedding or shower or birthday or anniversary, any celebratory event, like the pros do. And I will tell you that the answers are perhaps much more obvious than you would think. And those are the things that are most overlooked. So I'm going to give you my 5 top tips to start. And then after that, I will rant on about other things. Hi, Boston's here. Good. That's nice. Hello, hello. I suppose I should tell you we've done a lot of celebrity events, because I know that always makes people want to listen to you. We did LeBron James's wedding. We've done Billy Joel's wedding, to Katie Lee, who I also did her second wedding, and Padma Lakshmi and Salman Rushdie and Nate Berkus. And so now that you're all really impressed, I'll keep talking. Anyway, I would say, believe it or not, my number 1 tip for throwing a party, and these, by the way, I'm talking to all of you as if you're throwing events at home. If we're talking about events on a professional level or for hundreds of people, my advice might be slightly different, but let's start with that. The number 1 most overlooked thing, in my opinion, is the coat room. Believe it or not, when you walk into someone's house or apartment and they tell you to go throw your coat in, grandma's spare bedroom in the back, that immediately sets the wrong tone. And that the message is, this is sort of happenstance. It's not only is it not formal, because I don't think formal and casual are the indicators of a great party, whether it's formal or casual. I think it's how much attention is paid. Even if it were a barbecue, it's about the amount of attention to detail. So I suggest that everybody, when you're having a party of any sort, even if it's 10 people, just rent a coat rack, or at the very least, clean out your front closet, get everything out of there so that people can hang their coats as an adult without tossing their coats and their handbags and whatever else they brought on someone's bed. It's extremely off-putting. And I think when you get to someone's home, and the absolute first thing after you take their coat is you hand them a drink. That is the number 2 tip. And once people have gotten rid of their coats and they have a drink, they're happy. And then everything sort of builds from there. If you have not taken care of those first 2 very important details, you're already in trouble with the guests. So anything else that happens actually makes things devolve. If you have kids, if you can rent a high school student, if you can, anybody, your wife, your husband, whomever is not the primary host, could stand there and take people's coats and hand them a drink, so much the better. So that is my first tip. And actually, previous to that, which may not apply to everybody in urban areas, but certainly advice on the invitation, even if it's an email invitation or Instagram, whatever the hell you're doing, tell people where and how to park their cars. Because if someone has been driving around for a half an hour once they get to your home, and then you make them throw their coats in a back bedroom, and then they have to go looking for a drink, forget it. Party's already a bust. So my second tip, as I said, very simple, very obvious, is if you can possibly afford it or swing it or beg, borrow, or steal it, it's a really nice touch to have a bartender, even if it's not a professional bartender, just someone who is in charge of the bar. Of course, in the parties that we throw, I always overstaff the bar. People hate waiting for a drink. So it doesn't matter if it's on the microcosm level or if it's on the 500-person guest list level, you must have somebody in charge and enough glasses, enough ice, and enough things that people can get to easily. So even if you have a bartender just for mixed drinks or someone in charge, and you leave wine and champagne and beer in an ice bucket so people can readily get to it. People really hate waiting online for a drink, especially their first drink. You can pull the bartender after they've had enough, but generally, and most hotels and banquet houses around the world, and we work around the world, so it's not just New York and Florida, the ratio is 1 bartender to 50 people. That's a union standard, which I think is outrageous. I would never plan an event with less than 1 bartender for 20 people. And that is really the absolute minimum. So if you are doing professional events, that's my personal opinion. At the same time, you do not need to have 30 different glasses. You don't have to have a martini glass and a highball glass and a rocks glass. You can have what we call all-purpose glasses, a nice big wine glass that is used for all mixed drinks and everything else. But you should have enough of a variety of mixers, juices and sodas, and hopefully, extremely important these days is a nice complement of non-alcoholic beverages, which is to say not just Diet Coke or 7-Up. A lot of people are not drinking, or they are in the midst of their month of not drinking, or they don't want to drink that day. And it's so lovely. We have someone say, well, we have a beautiful iced tea, we have lemonade. If in the winter we have hot cocoa, we have a variety of lovely things that you can drink if you do not want alcohol. And again, this entire talk is about hospitality. The art of throwing a party is all about gracious and graceful and caring hospitality. So the more things you can do that are not terribly expensive and not very difficult, but just show that you actually care, that people are coming to you as a guest, will make you be considered a phenomenal host. My next tip would be music. People throw on a playlist or, put on the country music station on television. It's really, really important that you spend some time curating a playlist on Spotify or whatever you use, Pandora, Spotify, whatever it is. I'm not suggesting you have live musicians in your house if you can neither afford it nor have the space, but if you look at your guest list, and again, this is key to everything, look at your guest list. Remember, the party is not for you. You're hosting it. The party is for your guests. So if you look at your guest list and you say, I know so-and-so is a Taylor Swift freak and this person likes heavy metal and blah, blah, and you manage to put together a playlist that somehow, not easy, but it requires thought and time, somehow touches on at least uh, most of the things that your guests themselves are into, people are so pleasantly surprised. And it also changes the vibe and gives people a sense of that it's a celebration. I know any of us, we have a glass of wine and you hear one of your favorite songs and you're like, oh my God, I love that. And that's what you're trying to do at your house party or whatever it is you're doing. Certainly make sure that the sound is good. Make sure that if you are using a computer or whatever, that the connection is good. And it's you don't want to be in the midst of your party running around like you have to be the tech wizard, or again, the same thing with the coat rack or the coat hangers or getting drinks. You want to put it in a place, put the event in enough of a place that you can actually host, which is really your job. Even if you're cooking during it, if you are someone who everyone makes fun of me because I used to be a chef. That's how I got into my career. And I love being in the kitchen when my guests arrive, and that's okay. They can come in the kitchen. It's an open kitchen. They can talk to me and I can talk and do things at the same time. But I make sure that the bar is attended to, the coat room is attended to, the music's been taken care of, and that everything is going to flow without me personally having to put my thumb on it during the event. And which brings me to the other tip, which is really, really important, and that's introductions. You'd be amazed. You just can't throw a bunch of people in a room and expect them to get to know each other in the best way or understand what is interesting, what might be interesting to them about the other guests. And people take that for granted, you know. So how many times have you left a party and said, "Oh my God, I didn't know that was so and so the writer. I've read all his books," or "Oh, she's a dancer, and I've always, you know, I used to study dance." So it's really, really important that when you go through your guest list as a host and you look at all the names, even if you're doing a, you know, a luncheon for 50, and I'll tell you a story in a second, um, and you go through, you go, you know, make sure when you introduce so and so to people that you say that, you know, her daughter's getting married and Marcy's a wedding planner, or this one is lived in France and I understand that you're moving there next year. Things like that. That is the secret sauce. That is the magic. And when we work for world-class diplomats or famous actors or people who are really gotten somewhere in life, inevitably, and this is, it's always amazed me for years, they may relegate everything and delegate everything to their staff or to us or whatever, but the one thing that they insist on putting their hands on personally is the seating chart. And that says a lot, and that should tell you just how important it is. There is nothing more important if you're doing a seated meal than to figure out who is sitting next to whom and why you put them there. And my story is that I once attended an event thrown by a client of mine, and she invited me as a guest. And it was a luncheon for perhaps 50 people. It was a women's luncheon. And in each place card, on the back of the place card, she had written, to your right is so and so, and her daughter's getting married, and to your left is so and so, and she just wrote this book that might be interesting to you. So she had gone around to each place and explained on this place card how the seating was relevant to them. And it was, I mean, we, first of all, we were all so blown away by her absolute and wonderful hospitality, but also it made the whole vibe of the lunch, you know, which could have been a really dreary women's lunch, was a lot of fun because of that. So if you are doing a seated dinner, lunch, breakfast, whatever it is, I'm a big proponent of place cards. I mean, even if you're not putting a note on them, I really think it's important. I think people want to know that you actually thought about where you're putting them. And I think it's really, really, it's a pain in the ass. I know my clients are always like, "Oh, do we have to do that?" But you find, even for a party for, you know, hundreds of people, if you just clump all the possible groupings together and not worry yet about who is sitting specifically, as in, is this table near the dance floor? Is that table near the kitchen? If you just make your groups first, then you will find that once you are given the floor plan, it's much easier to just fill it in. And we do this, you know, I do this 20 times a year easily. And trust me, it's if you go about it that way, instead of tackling the entire thing the day before you have 500 people showing up, it'll help a lot. Um, when you think about the most successful parties you've ever been to, or the most successful parties you've thrown, I think you will see that you agree with me as to what the secret sauce is. And one of my favorite sayings, and it was on Instagram this week. My social media person writes Marcyisms every couple of months. And one of my favorite sayings is, you know, if you only pay attention to what a party looks like and not to the experience, it's like taking Channing Tatum or Angelina Jolie home and they just lie there. The point is, it has to be pretty, of course. When you walk in, you should feel, "Oh, that's so beautiful." But unless the event builds from there, unless there is something interesting and surprising and unusual, or not even unusual, just comforting and interesting and celebratory, as at each course, at each juncture, we try to build a party like it's a play. Something happens when you walk in, and then something happens a little later, and then so it builds to a crescendo. If you don't do that and it's just pretty, I don't care how much money my clients, as you can imagine, spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, on decor. God's honest truth. And I don't know if you've looked at my Instagram. If you haven't, you could see that there's a lot of very expensive parties, but unless we invest equally in the experience, party just lies there, not interesting, not exciting. Nobody, they will just leave and say, oh, it's so pretty, or wow, did you see how much money they spent? Which is not, that's not what you want people to say. You want them to say, oh, it's so much fun. The other thing is, again, for the most part, and as I said, I used to be a chef, so I think obviously food is really, really important. But I think for the most part, this is not the time to try to do something particularly innovative or particularly difficult or messy or loopy, or hors d'oeuvres should be no more than one bite, and that is a rule. If people have to, keep chewing, particularly women, it doesn't work. They won't take it. They won't take it off the tray. It should be one bite. It should be neat, easily digestible, and nothing that has seeds or pits or anything that might stain your teeth. Spinach, things like that are not the best things to serve as an hors d'oeuvre or a canapé. And on top of that, this is not the time to try out, this innovative eel recipe, even if it's fabulous. People, because they're already socially anxious, let's face it, I don't care, who you are, with the exception maybe Winston Churchill, unless you're a professional diplomat, people are nervous going to parties. That's why they drink too much. That's why they get, messed up. You want to give people things that are recognizable, that give them a sense of comfort, and enable them to engage with other people rather than focus on what is this I'm eating? How do I cut it? How do I get it out of a shell? How do I open it? Unless it's a very close. We do clam bakes and lobster bakes all the time, and we do them for 10, 12, 14 close friends, and that's a whole other vibe. And you lay down brown paper and you dump everything in the center of the table, and that's wonderful. That's a very specific kind of party where everybody knows each other. No one's nervous. No one has social anxiety. No one is afraid what they're going to look like. Everyone's wearing jeans and a work shirt, and we give them bibs, and it's hilarious. Very specific. But for an event where you're hosting people who may not know each other, or who may be very much trying to impress each other, you don't want to give them another layer of anxiety. So, which is not to say you can't serve foie gras, although I personally don't believe in foie gras or caviar. You can serve all of it, but it must be served in a manageable way, so that if it's caviar, it's on a blini, it is, dolloped for you. People do not have to negotiate what is correct, because a lot of people don't know, and it makes them very, very, very anxious. If you are going to indulge people in toasts, either that you're going to make a toast or other people make a toast, we always have a informal MC, which is not to say some idiot who gets up there and goes, now, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone who's going to oversee it, who's going to hand the mic, if there is a mic, or not the mic, or call up the next person, and someone who's going to realize when someone is too drunk to be speaking, or has already said the same thing 400 times, and they're going to repeat it for the 401st time, and will gently and gracefully get them to sit down. So open-ended toasts, and I don't care whose party it is, open-ended toasts don't work. There must be some order. So if it is a wedding, for example, or a birthday party, or some sort of you know big life event, we usually suggest to our clients that they call the people that they'd like to toast beforehand and say, would you mind giving a couple of minutes speech, no more than 3 or 4 minutes, blah, blah, blah. And those are the people on the list. And that's it. And anybody else who has to speak, you say, I'm so sorry, we've already decided who's going to toast. And that's the end of it. Because as I'm sure many of us, and I certainly have been to parties where it's endless and nobody's funny and nothing is witty, or sometimes they're off color, private jokes that shouldn't be said in a group. And you really want to avoid that after you spent all this time and all this money and all this brain power trying to host a fabulous event. I'm going to look at some of the questions. Let's see if anyone's asking me questions. Huh, no open questions. Nobody wants to hear anything from me. No, that's so bad. Let's see if there's anything in the chat. Nope, nope, nope. Okay, never mind. We'll just go back. Uh, what else can I tell you about events? I think, it's funny because my mother, I mean, that's how I got into this business. My mother was a wonderful hostess and solidly middle class, wonderful hostess who, if I had 3 uncles and they all drank different scotches, she would go out and get 3 different scotches because that was her way of showing them that she cared, that they were there. I do have a question. What type of menu do I recommend? It depends on the event. If there's, frankly, in the time of COVID, where have any parties that we're doing obviously are much smaller and socially distanced, and there's no dancing, at least here in the States now, and I know most of the world not. So we're having to switch our approach to parties. So ordinarily for an event, I would say, no more than 3 courses. Now, since the food is really so much more of the star of the event, since we can't do dance, we are doing 4 and 5 course tasting events. So again, there's no very specific formula. It's looking at the guest list, looking at the rules and regulations, again, in the time of COVID as it stands now, and seeing, so that when one of my regular clients wanted to throw themselves a 50th birthday, they wanted it very special. We can't do music, we can't do dancing. We did a fabulous tasting menu, and we hired a wonderful famous chef, and we hired a sommelier, and each course was paired with a different wine, and the chef spoke about the food in between each course, and the sommelier spoke about why the wine was paired. So at least there was something else to do since you can't dance. When I have parties in my house, I usually have a big New Year's Day party every year, not this year. I hire lots of weird and interesting entertainment. We have a little garden, even though I live in Brooklyn and it's the winter time. I usually put a tarot card reader out there, and I have a loft. I put an astrologer up in the loft, and sometimes I have mentalists walking around. I think anything you could do at a home party that is unexpected, that they only expect to find at a much larger event, makes it interesting and whimsical for the guests. And not that I'm going anywhere, but my 5th tip is a party favor, which I know sounds, maybe juvenile. Everybody loves to get something to take home. So for Christmas parties or my New Year's party, we have packages of home baked cookies that we give them. Sometimes I enclose a recipe for, my favorite cookie that I bake. I'm working with a plant company now as a spokesperson, Green Digs. So now we're giving people small potted plants to take home and the instructions on how to keep them from dying. I think even if you're giving someone a Polaroid photo of them at your house, everybody really gets a kick out of getting something to leave with. What else can I tell you? La 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 la. Let's see. I'm just trying to think what else I can tell you that is not. I'm not restricted. We all sign non-disclosure agreements now about our specific parties. I think. My most creative ideas are opening up your cabinets and pulling everything out and seeing the kinds of things that you've never used or that you were left by your parents, or you have heirlooms or whatever, and using all your good china, serving your good wine. I just, we went to a friend for Thanksgiving, and someone had given me a gorgeous magnum of uh, Lafitte. And I had it, we have a little wine cellar, I mean, teeny little wine cellar. And I was like, why am I not serving this? And I think that's the thing. What are you saving things for? What do you want your guests to feel special? Um, Serve your good wine, which doesn't necessarily mean it's outrageously expensive. It just means that someone thought of what you could say. Let's not just order the cheapest bar wine. Just say, I ordered a Zinfandel and a Cabernet and a Pinot Noir because I thought people might like different wines. The same cost, 10, 12 bucks a bottle is perfectly fine. But the fact that you ordered 3 different varietals so that people that gives them something else to talk about, anything that you can do that gives people something interesting to talk about, makes them, when they leave, they're like, that was fun, and how sweet that they thought of this, and how nice that that someone took my coat and someone gave me a drink, and maybe there's a specialty cocktail that someone was there making, even if it's a fabulous, we're in the winter now, a great Christmas or New Year's or January punch, something that says, you didn't just like wake up one day and go, oh, let me invite some people over, because that's not magic. That's a different, you could do that, but that's not the kind of events I'm talking about. Which apps to manage RSVPs and give info on your event, your favorite. Oh, thank you for saying great talk. I don't particularly like Appy Couple. I do like it. I like it for certain things, but not my clients. My clients, that wouldn't be for them, but I do like it when I go to an event and I have that and they've used it for the event structure. I think it's great. Lately, we're using Postable to get people's emails and addresses, and that's been a huge help. Something new and interesting, so that we don't have to, we act as a concierge for our clients as well. So they'll email us all their information about those. So we would have to call everybody to find out their addresses. If we didn't have this Postable where you can send it out and it'll automatically download into your data site, which is fantastic. Big help. Any idea what to serve during a real estate open house? Well, the old, the trick isn't that the cliche, you should be baking cookies or bread or something that makes people want to buy the house, right? I think I believe very strongly in serving, sparkling wine or champagne or Prosecco with something baked always and forever. I think people really appreciate we are in a drinking culture, and I think there is a sense of people really feel they're being hosted if you offer them a drink, and not rot gut, something decent. Doesn't have to be expensive again, but something decent. If it's a brunch, offer them, if it's brunch time, offer them like a Bloody Mary or a mimosa. That's fine. And people, myself included, really appreciate the gesture. Thank you. Everyone's being so nice. Private music concerts. Thank you from Mexico. Hi. Yeah, we've done a couple of private music concerts. I will tell you that in the time of pandemic, it's amazing, we've been able to hire name musicians that would usually go for 300, 400, 500 grand, right, for a performance, that will do a Zoom for 30 or 40,000, which I'm not saying is nothing, but for the clients who can afford it. We had someone from Goo Goo Dolls Zoom in and sing the first dance, and that was their favorite song. And we did a 40-person wedding, and they did private Zoom and sang the first dance, the couple, and that just wowed everybody. Usually, I prefer to do the private music performances. If it's a wedding or a corporate event, I prefer to do it after everything, either after the main reception or in a corporate event after whatever information has to be delivered or speeches, because I think otherwise everything else seems anticlimactic. If Bruno Mars performs and then afterwards you're going to give them the stock data for the year somehow. doesn't work. Someone's asking if I have any creative ideas. Well, I thought I was giving you all my creative ideas. Oh no. Okay, well, I'll try again. Some of the most creative ideas I've had, I will tell you generally, for a big seated party, if it's a wedding or something else, we prefer to have dancing after dinner because I don't think you can really, I don't think that you can pay attention to food and talking and the niceties of the table if you're having, appetizer and then dance set and then main course and then dance set. So I really prefer, which is we now do in the US, but used to only be done in Europe. We have the entire seated dinner with toast, usually an hour, probably an hour and a half is more reasonable. And then the band kicks in. And so anybody who wanted to talk and eat and just communicate gets their way. And the people who love to just drink and dance, it's only an hour and a half that they have to eat and then they get up to dance. And I think that timing is a real magical secret to a great party, because otherwise the older people are like, I didn't get to talk, I couldn't hear anything, blah, 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 and I hated my dinner because they were always playing music. And the young people are feel like, they didn't have the dance party they wanted. So this way, I think I have found that seems to work perfectly. What else? How do you say drunk people want to get on stage with the artist no matter what? Yeah, I know. We do try to trip them, but I think, unfortunately, usually when there's a famous artist, they have security, and I hate to do it to a guest, but we usually have to have security involved, and hopefully our security are never armed. They're just large, mostly men who are very diplomatic and are able to steer someone to the event. But under no circumstances would I ever let a guest get on stage unbeknownst to the artist, because these people, as you know, are divas, and you don't want to get into that situation. You certainly don't want to get into a situation where they're letting their security guards go at it, because then you're in a danger zone for sure. What else? How to build up the party? Well, sometimes, for example, there's dancing after dinner. Maybe it's in a different space. When we're serving the dessert, we'll drop a little glittery card on each person's place, and you open it up and say, please join us for dancing in the next room, or you'll hand out something ridiculous like giant sequin glasses or hats or whatever, and then it's so you have something that people are looking forward to for the next iteration. Sorry, I'm drinking chlorophyll. About private music concerts. What else can I tell you? Ba, 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 ba. Oh, I don't know what else I can tell you. And again, I love talking to people. I love giving my advice, but honestly, and I don't say this to sound cute, every single event I do, I learn something. And as I said, I've been doing this in my own business 36 years and 10 years before that. And every single time I'm like, wow, I should have thought of that. Or why don't we do it this way? Or, it's when you're dealing with people, it's always an evolution. It's a real learning experience about, I'm doing an event. We're here in Palm Beach. We're doing a wedding on a yacht this weekend, and we had to buy all our staff and the photographers and the band and everything else, it's small because of COVID. We had to buy them all new shoes because it's a yacht, it's someone's yacht, and we're allowing the guests to wear shoes on it. So we had to carpet half the boat, but then the places that we're going to be that aren't carpeted, we have to have new shoes so that we don't damage anything. So that's a first. 35 years, the first had to buy everybody shoes. What else? I think maybe I've given you everything I can give you. I hope the Small World people shared my Instagram, my Facebook, My personal email, which I'd be happy to hear from you, is marcy@marcyblum.com. And I hope you're all staying very safe and very healthy, and we're all going to be vaccinated soon, and we'll be able to maybe hang out in person, because I've had enough of this. I feel like I've been in the house since March, as I'm sure you all have as well. And it's been a very interesting year, certainly for the event business, and those of us who are still around and resurrecting ourselves have really, really felt it. So I'm really appreciative that I get to talk to all of you, and feel like we have a global community to share. The most breathtaking moments, all right, I'll end with that. I think the most breathtaking moments are, certainly when either at a wedding, the bride and groom are surprised because, their family hired Beyonce or J-Lo or someone like that, and the bride and groom were not aware of it. So all of a sudden, that is breathtaking. I've done a lot of work with my good friend, Preston Bailey, who's a fabulous, really over-the-top decor designer, so that you can walk in the room and it looks like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of flowers have been, grown from the ceiling or from the floors or and it's that first, all of us in the event business, we always talk about it. We all live for that wow moment when you walk in. We've built, for a 30th birthday that we called the Snowball, we built an ice skating ring in a hotel ballroom, and then hired professional ice skaters to be skating when the guests walked in and have snow in the ballroom. That was kind of fun. We've had, I've worked with the Pussycat Dolls, which, obviously they're not the hottest thing at the moment, but when they were 8 years ago, we had them for someone's birthday party, just come out and sing happy birthday. And that was amazing. Or a 40-foot wide birthday cake where several performers come out of it. I'm a big drama queen. I love to come up with anything that is, not again, not ostentatious, not just to show off money, but something that is fun and really evocative of who the hosts are. So if you see someone's getting bored during a party you are hosting, what is a trick used to save the situation? Shots, tequila shots. That's number one. Average prices for planning events. Well, we say most of our events run between $2,000 and $4,000. A wedding, at least, would be $2,000 and $4,000 a person, but that's including, invitations, everything else. Corporate events are usually closer to $1,000 a person. But again, big gamut. Hard to say. That's destination events are different. It's and we charge a percentage of the total budget. So, because we work our little butts off. Anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed this. I really, really appreciate you hanging in there with me. And as I said, if I haven't answered something, please send it to my email and I will do my absolute best to get back to you. And all of you stay safe, stay healthy. Let's have some great parties this year, even during COVID. And my absolute best to everyone. Thanks so much. Bye.